Philippians 4:8 says to think on these things. Before I get started, I'd like to continue to invite you to sow into these ministries. We're very candid with the truth. We're very direct with the truth. And as a result, lives are being changed. And sowing into these ministries is a way that you can partner with us with all that's being accomplished here. God bless you. Some time ago, I was on a flight coming back from the States and flying back into Japan. And somewhere up about 30,000 feet, the Lord ministered to me in a very powerful way. In a still, small, quiet cabin, I heard the voice of the Lord just kind of speak to me in the middle of the night while we were flying. And the voice of the Lord dropped into my spirit and said, "Nick, can I capture your heart?" And that really penetrated my soul. That got me deep down in my spirit, because I knew immediately what God was talking about. When God asked me, "Nick, can I capture your heart?" He was not asking me, "Nick, do I have the ability to capture your heart?" He was saying, "Nick, will you let me capture your heart? Nick, will you let me love you?" And I realized God has a way of asking questions that just penetrate to your core, to your being. And I realized God was putting his finger on a place in my heart that I had shut down, particularly to him. You know, disappointments, pain, loss, change. Can I trust God? Can I rely on him? Why doesn't he answer prayer? And as a result, I got caught up in the works of the Lord instead of the Lord and the works. You know, when we first get started out on our walk, we love the Lord so much and we're just in love with him. But there's a tendency to get away from that and lose that passion and that zeal. And we get caught up in the works instead of the Lord. And that's where I was at a point in my life. Now, please understand, we're all called to do works. We're called, the Bible's very plain about it, as believers, we're called to do works for the Lord. My question to you, and the question I had to ask myself, is why do you do works? I challenge you, go around and ask people, do an inventory and ask people, do your own survey, ask people, why do you serve the Lord? And listen very, very closely to the answers, because most Christians will say, well, because we're supposed to, or they'll say, well, the Bible says so. And that's okay. There's not a problem with that, but there's something better. There's absolutely something better. And so when people ask me why I do works for the Lord, it's because I love him. And I found that oftentimes Christians will do works for the Lord to prove that they love him. Jesus said, "If you love me, you'll keep my commandments." That's often interpreted as, in order to prove that I love you, I'm going to do your commandments. Instead of, because I love you, I'll do your commandments. Which comes first? The rules or the relationship? Oftentimes I'll ask people this question. Get an understanding. We've all played Monopoly, or we're familiar with the game of Monopoly. And in that game, I said, imagine you're sitting down at a table and you're playing this game of Monopoly with all your friends. At a game like that, what's more important? Are the rules more important, or are the relationships more important? Hands down. Some of you don't even know this. The relationships are more important, always more important than the rules. And I point this out because think about what God is interested in. He's not as interested in your works or your head. He's interested in your heart. He's not as interested in his law as he is in your love. He's not interested so much in your duty as he is your devotion. And this is just the way it is with the Lord. Because, I was sharing with a friend just this morning when I was praying with him that we know in Hebrews it talks about, for the joy that was set before him, he could endure. Jesus had a job to do, but why did he do it? He did it for the relationship. He did it so that he could bring us back together. For God so loved the world that he gave. He did something, but what drove him? Love did. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not dismissing the laws of God at all. Jesus came to fulfill all the laws because we couldn't. What I'm saying here is that the laws never take the place of the love. Never. They can't. And so I've been accused by a lot of people. Oh, Nick, you're preaching too much grace. Oh, you're preaching too much liberty. You're not saying that a person can go out and do all they want to do, and they've got to carte blanche to do whatever they want to do. They got the green light to do whatever they want to do. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I've noticed something. The people who ask me that question oftentimes, they're a particular kind of Christian. And what I've learned and what I've done, I've categorized Christians into two basic groups. I call them Old Testament Christians and New Testament Christians. Christians are all Christians nonetheless, but some come from an Old Testament law mentality and the others come from a New Testament grace mentality. There is a big difference. One is more concerned about rules and regulations than they are about relationship and romance with the Lord. And so, and when this conversation comes up, quite often when this conversation comes up, what I've found is that the New Testament Christians, the NTCs, are okay with Old Testament Christians living by rules and laws and things like that. They'll deny it, but they're okay with living by rules first. They're okay. However, Old Testament Christians are not okay with New Testament Christians who are walking in liberty and freedom and grace. Now, I wonder why that is. I've had friends come to me, clergy come to me, and tell me that they're upset with me. You know, I can't be preaching too much grace. Think about that. You're preaching too much grace, too much grace. I'm sorry. I thought the Bible said His mercies never end, and His mercies are new every day. His grace is sufficient. And so there's a mentality here. I know there's a mentality here where Old Testament Christians are hostile towards New Testament Christians. Now, why is that? And there ends up being a debate. And I saw a movie one time. It was with Mel Gibson, and the movie was called We Were Soldiers. And Mel Gibson is a commanding officer. He and his company landed in Vietnam, and it's a hot LZ. They're taking enemy fire, and there's a squadron of helicopters coming in to bring in resupply, ammo, food, and they're going to drop off all this ammo, but they're also going to pick up the wounded and take them out. One of the pilots, his name is Snake. Snake is leading a handful of helicopters into this hot LZ, and Snake is telling the other pilots, we're taking on fire, just follow me. And as soon as they started taking on enemy fire, Snake goes in, but the rest of them peel off, and they go back to base camp. And so Snake goes in, does his job and everything, drops off the ammo and the food, the meals, and he picks up the wounded, gets on back to base camp. And when he gets back to base camp, one of the pilots that bailed on him came and threatened him. He said, Snake, if you ever put my life in danger like that again, or if you ever do something like that again, I'll kill you. Snake pulled out his pistol and put it to the guy's head and said, you've got the nerve. He didn't say nerve, he said something else. He said, you got the nerve to want to fight me, but you don't have the nerve to fight the real enemy? And that is a picture of Old Testament Christians. If you're an Old Testament Christian, my challenge to you is to get free. Get free. As a matter of fact, if you want to embrace the law, embrace the law. I just dreamed about this just a few minutes ago. I was sleeping, I woke up. The question that was in my spirit was to ask the multitudes, hey, raise your hands if, how many of you out there need more of God's laws right now? Raise your hands if you want more of God's laws. Not one hand went up, but I flipped that question around. How many of you could use more of God's love? And all the hands went up. See, my point here is laws don't do anything to motivate your heart. They put fear in you, but they don't build passion and love and desire. Not laws. Laws are dead. It's like a contract, but God isn't looking for contract. God is about covenant. Covenant refers to life and blood and relationship. Paul said in either Romans chapter 2 or 3, I think it's chapter 2, that this is what I'm being accused of, preaching too much grace. And he said, that's not what I'm teaching at all. I'm not teaching go do whatever you want to do and still be saved. That's foolishness. But why would Old Testament Christians just presume that that's what I'm saying? You know why? Because they feel, they will never admit this, but they feel that, oh, you guys are getting away with stuff that I can't get away with. Did you hear what I said? They're afraid that I'm getting away with something. I'm just too free because I'm more freer than they are, and because I'm not abiding by their rules, that it's not fair. Now hear me very closely on this. If you've ever said, hey, that's not fair, you might be an Old Testament Christian. I know it's a hard saying, but think about it. I've said this before. Hey, that's not fair. Hey, that's not fair. For example, he got the promotion and I didn't. Hey, that's not fair. Hey, I was in line up here and you cut the line up there. Hey, that's not fair. Her piece of cake is bigger than mine. You ever had kids say that to you? Why is her piece bigger than mine? Why is his piece bigger than mine? Or have you ever heard a kid say, how come you're letting him get away with that, but I got a spanking? I got punished for that. Right? That's not fair. It gets more serious. I've met women who can't have babies, yet they've got family members who are getting pregnant and having abortions. And the women who can't have babies will say, that's not fair. I want babies and I can't have them. That's not fair. She's getting pregnant and she's aborting them. Hey, that's not fair. If you've ever said, hey, that's not fair, what's behind that question? Understand, when anytime, and I know I'm guilty of this, I'm still working on this, but I'm getting free. Anytime you say, hey, that's not fair, what you're saying is, I want justice. Translation, I want law. Translation, I depart from grace. This is what Paul was talking about. You frustrated grace. And so my point here is, we all to some degree want justice. We need to be understood. Well, you know what? We don't want fair. Honestly, when you stand before the Lord, you really don't want fair. You really don't want justice. We need to preach grace, know grace, recognize grace, embrace grace. In John chapter 5, Jesus is speaking, and he tells the people, he says, you're searching the scriptures in hopes that you might find life. But all the scriptures point to me. What he's saying there, he says, you're looking at the scriptures, you're looking at the law, thinking by you knowing the law and performing the law, you're going to find some kind of satisfaction in life. He says, no, don't miss it. All the scriptures are pointing to me. You know, the purpose of the law was to show you, one, that you cannot perform all the laws, those of you who try to keep all the rules. And number two, there has to be another way. Galatians 3:24 tells us that the law was our teacher. The law was our schoolmaster to show us, to bring us to a point of desperation and just give up like, there's got to be another way. This is what the law is. The law is supposed to convict us so bad to bring us to a point of desperation and panic and saying, there must be another way. Jesus is the only way. Well, now we're talking relationship. For God so loved the world. Understand, everything I'm talking about right here, everything that motivated God is about relationship. His laws are important, but what's more important is his love. And so God is not so much after his laws as he is your love. He's not so much after your head knowledge as he is your heart. He's not after rationale. He's after romance. He's not after religion. He wants relationship with you. So much more to it when you make it personal. So the bottom line here, God's desire is not to capture your head. He wants to capture your heart. So open up your spirit to the Lord. Open up your soul to the Lord and say, God, I need you. God, I want this relationship with you. God, I need to understand your love. God, I want to let you love me. Show me how to even let you love me. He's capable and he's able and he's willing to love you. We just have to open up our hearts and humble ourselves before him and say, God, I need you. I need your love. Show me even how to receive your love. Philippians 4:8 says to think on these things. God bless you.